over the last few years, we have seen a wave of stellar mobile rhythm games come out. Demo, Citus, Voez, Archaea, Lanota, the list goes on, and Muse Dash is no different. Made by Chinese developer Pero Games, it was originally released in June of 2018 for iOS and Android, and then a year later for PC and Switch, and it combines a lot of different ideas. The platforming style of the music levels from Rayman Legends, the note structure of Taiko no Tatsujin, the optional difficulty of Thumper. And not only does it perfectly mix all of these elements, but it also brings a ton of its own unique concepts to the table as well. But does it still fail on too many fronts to deserve a recommendation? Well, let's find out. Firstly, let's talk about the gameplay. It's made to look like a 2D side-scroller. Notes are separated out into two lanes, one for the ground and one for the air, each corresponding to their own customizable set of inputs. All you have to do is hit oncoming enemies in whichever lane they approach. But don't be fooled, because there are plenty of gimmicks that make this seemingly simple format become extremely convoluted. While you do have plenty of enemies that approach you normally, you also have ghosts that disappear as they get closer, saw blades that require you to avoid them in the opposite direction, hammers that fly in from the top and bottom of the screen, boss fights, and much more. But hey, at least everything is color-coded, right? Pink on bottom and blue on top. Put all of that together and add in enough visual stimulation overload to ward off any players with epilepsy, and this quickly becomes possibly one of the hardest rhythm games to read. And yet somehow it remains very beginner-friendly with a difficulty curve that starts off very fair and feels relatively linear. Going from easy to hard to master, all on a scale of 1 to 10, every difficulty rating really feels true. The game becomes even easier when you realize that finishing a song does not require hitting a certain number of notes, but rather just keeping your health above 0. As previously mentioned, much like in Thumper, speaking of which, you should check out my last video. In reality, you don't have to do anything except avoid obstacles that would otherwise damage you. Obviously, the game does not encourage this type of play, and in fact, at higher difficulties, this becomes harder than just playing normally, but the fact that this option is there makes getting better at the game feel less punishing, which is much appreciated. But on the flip side, what might be disappointing to some is that, yes, if you get good enough at reading this insanity, the game eventually caps out in terms of its skill ceiling. Fear not though, because if you are able to ascend to this level of mastery, there is a decent modding community that has made plenty of custom songs that will surely push you to your limits if you so desire. But honestly, why download custom tracks when the song list is this amazing already? It is filled to the brim with some of the best Asian-produced techno tracks out right now. All of your standard artists are present. T-Pazolite, Red Alice, Psy, plus a lot of your standard rhythm game songs also make an appearance. Bad Apple, Pupa, Freedom Dive. They even threw in some fun joke songs like Mope Mope. Anyone remember that one? The whole soundtrack is just banger after banger. And Muse Dash has been phenomenal when it comes to collaborations for DLC song packs. Toho, Groove Coaster, DJ Max, Nanahira, Waka, the list just goes on. And there's clearly a lot of love and care that goes into each of these collaborations as well. Just take a look at the first song in the 7th Beat Games Pack, wherein they recreated the final level of Rhythm Doctor in Muse Dash. I mean, that is just insanely cool. Honestly, you really could not ask for better content, and yet they keep adding more and more anyway. Alright, that covers the core gameplay and music, but let's talk about the aesthetics, which are equally awesome. The art is super colorful and vibrant with its own flavor of anime style, and the animation includes these super fluid motion graphics that really fit the overall vibe. Every song takes place in one of a handful of environments, although there are a few specialty tracks that dance between a few. Each one has its own background and assortment of cute enemies and bosses, but what's a game's aesthetic without some fun protagonists? There are 3 main playable muses, as they are referred to: Rin, Boru, and Maria. And yes, that is Maria and not Marie-Ja, apparently. All muses have multiple costumes, each with their own maximum health and passive abilities that can help you out during a song. On top of that, there are also crossover characters from some of the collaborations they have done so far. Some of these collab muses even include some fun Easter eggs for only the most hardcore of fans to find and appreciate. And, along with whatever muse you choose, you can also pick an elfin, which are little helpers that have their own bonus abilities as well. But this is where we need to transition into talking about my major gripe with the game. the scoring system. Now, with most rhythm games, there are only two things that really matter: hitting every note and accuracy. Nothing more. And for the most part, that is still the case here. Getting an accuracy above 90% gives you a red S rank, getting an accuracy above 95% gives you a silver S rank, and getting a perfect accuracy gives you a gold S rank. However, in Muse Dash, points per note are not proportional to a universal perfect score like many other rhythm games have. This leads to a few other factors that make getting number 1 on the leaderboard a little more complex and, honestly, a little less fun. The problem lies in the mixing and matching you can do between different Muse and Elfin abilities to maximize your score. While many of them are simply there to make the gameplay a bit easier and allow for more room for error, there are also a few abilities which apply score multipliers. So while you may think that character selection is just there to give the game a bit of charm, that is unfortunately far from the truth. At the very least, you would hope that there would be one gold standard combo that virtually everyone uses because it gives the highest scores, but that isn't necessarily true either. The best combo is usually different for every song due to a variety of reasons. For example, when applicable, by far the best combo in the game is Little Devil Maria with Lilith. Even though Maria loses 10 HP every second, Lilith is able to regain health every time a note is hit perfectly. So as long as a song has a high enough note density, you can complete it with a whopping 1.25 times score multiplier. But obviously, this doesn't work for every song because many charts just don't have consistent enough notes to keep your health above 0 until the end. So for those tracks, it's back to the drawing board of trying to figure out the optimal combination. Aside from that, the game also features a fever mode, wherein as you hit notes, a meter will fill, and once it is full, you can enter a brief period of time in which you gain 50% more points. This isn't uncommon amongst rhythm games, being seen in others like Guitar Hero and DJ Max, but as is also a problem in those, fever mode can be set to manual activation, meaning that all of a sudden, knowing when the best time to activate it is crucial for getting the highest score possible. And I'm not even going to bother talking about the really in-depth tactics like intentionally hitting certain notes poorly to time fever meter activations better. All of this amounts to an overly complex scoring system and a decent amount of memorization, which in my eyes destroys the experience of getting good based purely on skill alone. However, if you're anything like me, you will have no care for dominating the leaderboards anyway, especially in a casual rhythm game like this, so in all honesty, none of this really matters that much. I guess this is also the part where I should just come out and say it. This game is horny! There is no denying that a huge trend amongst mobile games is hooking players in with overly sexualized characters, and Muse Dash is no different. Every character has very suggestive artwork and voice lines, many of the illustrations you can unlock are near pornographic, and for God's sake, the name of the developer, Pero, means licking, and the name of the publisher, Hasu, means heavy breathing while aroused. Their logos are literally tits and ass! All of this kind of puts a sour taste in my mouth as someone who doesn't really care for rhythm games to be watered down by this kind of pointless fan service. And from a purely moral standpoint, these are schoolgirls! Don't bullshit me with any of that, oh, but it's just a cartoon, or the age of consent is different in Japan, or, well, they still could technically be 18. I don't want to hear it. It's fucked up, but whatever. I understand that sex sells, and clearly they just need to be able to easily market their game and reliably hook new players, especially given that Pero is a brand new company that has only ever made this game. Yet, in the same breath, this adult content also blocks itself off from being presentable to children, which of course is a huge portion of the mobile game market, so they probably still could have done without it, but I guess it's neither here nor there. If waifus aren't your thing, just ignore it and move on. Next, let's talk about unlocking content and pricing, which is surprisingly kind of important here. The base game itself only costs $3, and that gives you access to all of the default songs, muses, and elfins. But those still need to be unlocked over time through a linear level progression system. XP can be gained by completing global achievements, song-specific achievements, rotating challenges that change every 6 hours, or just finishing songs. Each level up will award you with a new song and a random assortment of chips. Get enough of the same chips and you will unlock a new muse, elfin, or illustration. Unlocking all of this only takes a few hours, and I think it works as a fun and rewarding introduction to the game. However, there are some caveats here. Firstly, no matter what, Every single master difficulty for every single song has to be unlocked individually by getting some sort of S ranking on the hard difficulty. This quickly gets tedious and unnecessary, especially when you become advanced enough to play master charts right off the bat, but instead you still need to slog through the hard charts first. And secondly, even once you unlock all of that base content, you will realize that without the DLC, this game is extremely lackluster with barely enough content to hold even newbies. For reference, that's only if you aren't playing on Switch, which just comes with the DLC prepackaged given its higher price point. As of writing this, there are only a little over 50 songs in the default pack, whereas there are 52 DLC packs, each one usually with 6 songs, totaling out to over 300 DLC tracks. And while you technically can still buy individual packs on mobile if you really want to, the much more cost-effective method is to just buy the Just As Planned pass, which will give you all of the DLC bundled together, but will cost you $35. Some have argued that that is a bit steep considering how much depth this game lacks, and considering that many rhythm games these days are completely free. But come on, this is a game made by a team of full-time developers, and they deserve to be paid for their efforts. Plus, this is not $35 on top of whatever money you will spend on future DLC packs. As long as you buy Just As Planned, you get access to literally any content they release in the future for free, acting more as a permanent season pass, so I think it balances out nicely. And don't worry, they put out new stuff every month, so you don't even have to wait around very long for more goodies to keep you coming back. Plus, buying the pass also gives you a permanent 1.5 times XP boost, meaning that unlocking the base content can go way quicker if you just get it right from the beginning. None of this is to imply that I don't realize that for a lot of people, $35 for a casual rhythm game is a lot to ask. But all in all, this is a really polished game with a continuous stream of new and genuinely amazing content. Sure, you would hope that there would be a little less of some poorly translated English here and there, and yes, there have been some troublesome bugs pop up over the years, but overall, it still really feels worth the money. However, again, there are some major stipulations here. Firstly, while you can synchronize your save data across all systems by utilizing an official Muse Dash account, this unfortunately does not apply to purchase history, meaning that if you frequently play the game on different platforms, you will have to completely rebuy the game itself and the DLC for each system. And secondly, if you want to play on Switch, be prepared to sometimes not receive new DLC packs as quickly as everyone else. I've heard this be justified as a way for the DLC track musicians to have some time to get their royalties through players purchasing the individual packs on mobile, but if that was truly the case, then I would expect packs to be delayed on PC as well, given that that platform also does not allow for buying individual song packs, but it seemingly gets everything immediately anyway? And again, I don't even really know who is buying individual packs anymore after the release of the much more cost-effective Just As Planned pass, but unfortunately this is just the case. And speaking of different platforms, which one is the best to play on? Well, that's largely dependent on which control options you want. Depending on the system, you can play on a touchscreen, a keyboard, or a controller. I've tried them all, and they each have their own advantages and disadvantages. Playing on a touchscreen is probably the most intuitive option, but it's made extra difficult given that you have very little configurability with it, and you will always have a hand that is covering what is coming towards you. Playing on a keyboard is targeted towards people who are already very comfortable with PC rhythm games, but if that isn't your forte, it might be an uphill battle. And playing on a controller is convenient for chilling out on a couch in front of your TV, but I find that my dexterity here is reduced quite a bit in comparison to the other two options. So it's really up to you and what you feel is the most comfortable. In the end, as long as you are able to overlook some of its conditions, Muse Dash is an A1 rhythm game, and I'm not alone in thinking that. It's super popular on mobile, accruing millions of downloads and being at the top of the charts, and it has overwhelmingly positive reviews on Steam. And it isn't just players that are taking notice, but other developers as well. Not only has Muse Dash itself had plenty of crossover songs and characters, but it has also supplied some fun DLC to other games, including DJ Max and Groove Coaster. There's just very clearly a lot of love put into this game by the developers for the fans. From the awesome merch and physical collector's editions, to the hidden charts with difficulties that go past 10, to the highly customized collaborations, to even the anniversary events and April Fool's jokes Pero does every year. It is evident that while on the surface this game may seem like an easy cash grab targeted towards your average weeb, in reality, it's got a lot of meat on the bone. Fun fact, Pero Games actually gave its employees a company-wide holiday for the release date of Cyberpunk 2077 so they could all spend time playing it at home. Man, what a disappointment that must have been for all of them. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and let me know what other games you want me to cover in the comments. Also, if you want to see some non-rhythm game related content from me, head on over to my personal channel. Stick around for whatever I have coming next, and as always, have a great day.